back to the Growing Revolution. I'm Eric with Smart Pot Fabric Planters, and this week our guest is Rick Jones, who invented the Square Farmer tray product line. And it's a great product for anyone growing plants in Smart Pot containers or decorative clay, nursery pots, any type of container it does well in. Rick, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate you having me here today.
Yeah, it's been a while since we spoke. We connected years back, and did some sample exchanges. And
Yeah.
I should be wearing my Square Farmer shirt that you gave me. So, can you introduce yourself and maybe talk about what you were doing prior to starting Square Farmer?
Absolutely. My name is Rick Jones. I currently live in Southern California in Riverside County. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. Before I started Square Farmer, which was I guess you could say the very late summer of 2016, and my product was available basically on the 1st of 2017. I had sales jobs basically in the world of medical management. So I worked for a couple different groups who had products or were reselling services, or not products, but services, and also reselling services that would help bring down the costs of healthcare spends for self-insured groups in America. So if your company has a healthcare plan, it's you're either paying a premium or you're self-insured. If you're paying a premium, that's the monthly cost that you pay to Blue Cross or whoever. And if you're self-insured, then you guys are paying that out of pocket. And there's certain things that can really hurt a self-insured group tremendously. It's not just your employees, it's all of the lives that are covered underneath that plan. And so that's what I was doing. That kind of came to an end in the summer of, or maybe in the spring of 2016. And in the summer of 2016, I had this aha moment, dude. And, I was watching Shark Tank, and, I was all fueled up by that stuff, and started doing just some basic research on square garden saucers. This is my product here. This is the 10-inch here, and it's simply a piece of plastic. It's two products in one, and the idea is it solves a problem. It lifts your potted plant up off the tray of the floor of your saucer, and so when you pour in water and nutrients, what drains out on the bottom, which is waste, doesn't get pulled back into the plant. So just simple piece of plastic, two products in one, solves a problem. I had this aha moment and I just kind of ran with it. So if there's people out there that are starting businesses, I think there's a few things that I did where I could have rearranged the order of it. For instance, I know sales, I know marketing, I know advertising, but I knew nothing about wholesale, resale, the plastic industry, tool and die, plastic injection mold, shipping, transportation, logistics. I knew none of that stuff. But every day it's almost like a brand new MBA program that I'm in, where I learn, that's where I could have done something better. Or, you learn different things every day, but did some basic work on the internet to find out, are there square garden saucers out there? And the idea of adding that lift came in a little bit later. And so I found myself, I'm fortunately in a place, they call this the Inland Empire. I'm in a region in Southern California where there's probably 100 different plastics companies within, say, a 70-mile radial distance, so I was able to just pick up the phone, and I must just sound like a Boy Scout rookie going, "Hello, my name is Rick. I want to make a tray." You know what I mean? I'm just calling the plastic companies. And finally, I got a hold of a group that was like, "Listen, this isn't how it goes, dude. You need to have a drawing. You need to get it from an engineer." And he rattled off a name. And the name he rattled off is, that guy's pretty much like a Michael Jordan, like a LeBron James of his industry. And he's in Corona, which is not far from me. Met with the guy, and he said, "Yeah, I can do the drawing for you." And that was about $900. And that got me the technical drawing, okay, which took several weeks, but it also got me the CAD image of what the saucer would look like. So
Yeah.
from that point, what I did was I visited about 95 literally different hydroponic stores, garden centers, um, gardening stores in the Southern California area, from Santa Clarita all the way down to Chula Vista. And I showed them that image on my phone, and I said, you know, I want to come out with this product. Would you guys be willing to take some samples and give them out to your customers? And pretty much almost all of them said yes. A couple places were like,
Right.
nah. And then there's a couple places that are just like, it's not appropriate here because everyone's in trays, blah, blah, blah. Right. So, because, as you know, all these different garden centers, hydro stores and whatnot, they could be a few miles away, but their customer base can be radically different. They can't all sell the exact same products. But here's where I put the cart in front of the horse. I was so excited about it. And when I'm showing this image to people, they're like, dude, that's effing genius. Why didn't I think of that? Right. But instead of gathering all that intel first, I just pushed all in, man. And I found a tool, and I found a plastic injection molding group in Corona that gave me an offer. It was a great offer. And on top of that, the owner of that company, because it was a small group called PIMCO, he is the one who directed me to the group that actually built my mold. And if you know if you know the folks that are listening to this, or if you know anything about tool and die and plastic injection mold, it's you have an exact drawing, but it's not always an exact science. Meaning, once that mold is built and it's shipped to the manufacturer and they actually put it in the machine that it's going to be working, sometimes they have to do little adjustments and things like that. Well, not in my case. My mold was built to the specifics of that drawing, and also to the specifics of the machine that it went into. So as soon as it was built and they drove it over there from Riverside to Corona, put in that machine to run samples, like a charm, man, like a charm. So I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways. But I mean, honestly, I should have maybe kicked back and got a little bit more input and feedback from stores about, well, would you take this? Would you buy this? Because when you get into the world of plastic injection molding, once you pay for that mold, that's it. It can't be changed, and it can't be made into something different. If you lay out 25 or 30 grand or more for a mold and it doesn't work out, then you've got about $900 worth of recyclable metal.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
what would you have changed with this
man,
information?
I think I would have just visited all those stores and maybe even made some more phone calls, and then decided to pull the trigger with the manufacturer saying yes. Tell the guy in Riverside, tell Renaissance to build the mold. You know what I mean? Renaissance Mold in Riverside, California. It was a guy named Rudy. They do great work, amazing work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nice.
there's that. And also, here's another thing I would have done maybe a little bit differently for all those new business ventures out there. I'm a one-man band. Yeah, this is my home. My garage is my warehouse, where I have all my supplies, this and that. And before I get into that, everything I have is locally sourced. So I'm with my third manufacturer only because the original guy, his company was purchased and then closed by a big group. And then I was pushed to a bigger group that same group owned. And they were like, yeah, your prices are going to be going up soon. So I bounced to a smaller group in a place called Placentia, which is not too far from Disneyland. But so my mold is local. The plastic that they source from is out of Houston, so that's local. My t-shirts, my hats, my banners, my displays, all that stuff is from Temecula and San Marcos. These are towns that are close to me.
Yeah.
So
So
it's also
everything's made in the USA.
all in the USA and all local, and it makes me feel very comfortable that if there's an issue, I can go to these folks. I don't have to even travel across the country, what have you. But so when I finally had the samples, I went around to all these different stores, and I brought those guys T-shirts, I brought them banners, I brought them displays, I brought them saucers. And going back to the fact that I'm a one-man band, I'm not a company, I'm not in the industry, I'm not someone who's come out of the industry that knows all you guys, right? So I wanted to look like a real business. I didn't want to look like just this person that was going to be here today and then gone in a couple few months. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm bringing all this great swag into these stores, right? And they got the T-shirts, and I haven't made one sale. There's, you know what though, there were a few stores, man, and a couple of them are still there. Tracy at Green Mile in San Bernardino, what used to be 55 Hydro in Santa Ana, which is now a Grow Generation Sherry down there, and the guy
Hmm.
that was at Miramar Hydro down there in San Diego. Um,
Travis.
Travis, and then Derek over at Humboldt Direct here near me in Paris. All of them said, "That's awesome. If you get that product, I'm going to buy it from you." So I did have some actual folks, and then there was a group in Riverside too that said the same. But yeah, I went back and brought all these things. That way, I could kind of get the community, their community, introduced to my product and all that. But that was very costly. Each one of those packages, if you will, was like $100 out of my pocket, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, out of those 95 stores that I approached, I think I got sales with, meaning I got my product into about 60 to 70% of those places. Okay, but I realized really quick I can't just operate in Southern California. I'm selling pieces of plastic, dude. I gotta, I need to be in more spots then. So I reached out to Central California, Northern California, and then the rest of the U.S. And then the way I did that though was I had to change up the game, right? I couldn't send them all this great stuff, I sent them a sample, a couple samples, and said, listen, if you're willing to put me on your shelves, I'll give you the sweetest consignment deal. Okay. I'll send you a case because I only had, here's my 13-inch. That was the 10-inch I was showing you. That's my 13-inch. I started with the 13-inch. The 10 didn't come till the next year. So I'll send you 50 of them with a display, and you don't have to pay me till they're all sold. And if you never sell them, then you don't have to pay me. And if you don't sell them all, you don't have to pay me. And you know what I mean? So it was a no strings attached deal. All I wanted was shelf space in their
Yeah.
spot.
Most
And
stores are willing to take a deal like that.
they are. And here's something I think this might, here's one of the things that was a little unnerving in the beginning. When I was visiting all those stores, I'm getting these accolades going, dude, that's awesome. Why didn't I think of that? But I'll tell you what, man, there were about somewhere between 6 and 12 purchasers, managers, owners that were like, that's a great product. You're going to get ripped off. I swear that was the next thing out of their mouth was, that's a great product. You're going to get ripped off. And, they were referring to, some of the bigger distribution groups, and there's some other companies out there. So that
They
made me
love
stop and,
ripping off ideas.
yeah, it's like, oh, look, that guy's got something successful. Can we make it cheaper? Because we're already everywhere because we already have it. So
Yep.
one of the strategic things that I had to do was I had to keep my price down to where it was less than or the same cost of a regular saucer and one of these insert risers, because that way, if a group did decide they were going to mimic me, they would pretty much be cannibalizing themselves.
Right.
So I kind of had to take punches there. I had to take punches with the shipping. I offered free shipping my first year. So I did all of these things to get my product as in many places I could in the United States, in the lower 48, as fast as possible. So if something did happen, I I would have a leg to stand on and say, listen, this is me, this is my product, but that never happened. And, but going back to what could I have done different? Well, when I approached all those stores in Southern California, I could have just brought them a couple samples and said, hey, can we do a consignment order? You know what I mean? And once things start popping, hey, here's some t-shirts, man. You know what I mean? So because the thing is that if you're not working with the bank account of some entity that's got a bunch of cash to throw at a new business, if it's all your money, you got to watch those dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that that I've faced is, the shipping charge issues. I mentioned I sell only in the lower 48 because for me to ship internationally, it would cost so much money to get that to get that package out of the U.S.
Totally.
It would be better for the customer to just create their own scenario. So about my product, and this is for everybody out there. Look, I got a 10-inch unit. I got a 13-inch unit. They're black. I don't have different colors. I don't have different materials. But if you are a plant person and you don't buy my product, please at least elevate your pot up off the deck of the saucer, unless it's sitting on the ground or just sitting on the floor. And that's going to get you some breathability. And it's also going to keep that overflow from being absorbed back up into the pot, whether it's a fabric pot or a plastic pot. So, I follow a whole bunch of different entities on Instagram, and I follow just a lot of plant people, people that have got thousands of followers, dude. And all they're doing is showing pictures of the hundreds of plants in their house, and they're all beautiful plants, and they're all gorgeous. And I don't think I've ever seen any that have any kind of elevation in the saucer, if there is a saucer. Some are hanging, some are here, some are there. But
Right.
it's decor, and you want things to match and this and that. So that's why I'm saying, if you don't necessarily need my product, but if you put some rocks or a brick or something down there, it's just that mine is a nice, clean, easy way to do things. It
Yeah.
goes well with your product. You guys got a 2 and 3 gallon where it works swimmingly on my unit. And here's
I
one
think
thing
your largest size will fit up to a 5 gallon pot, right?
it depends. So it can actually fit pots that are even larger. It really comes down to what's the measurement of the base of your pot. So, like you guys, your 5 gallon, I think, is a little bit longer than 13 inches. So, you'd have to either sort of tuck it in, or you could like stretch the sides. But there's some larger pots out there that are just a little slimmer at the base,
Mm-hmm.
and wider at the top. And if we had more camera room here, I could put one of these on the floor and stand on it, and it'll take my 207 pounds, so it'll take your potted plant. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah,
meant for
most
human beings to walk
saucers are
on,
very
but
flimsy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And going back to the guy that designed my saucer, he made it flexible where it doesn't need to be so strong, because I want it to be super light, and he made it reinforced and super strong where it needs to be, like on the platform there. So
Yeah.
it's as light as can be, but it's really durable, and if you use it for what it's made for, um, it'll last forever, and it will do its job. It solves a problem, of getting your plant up out of the muck. But it also has some other applications too. It, you could drill a hole in the bottom with a conical drill, put like a 3/4 inch grommet in there, for instance, and then if you've got it up on some kind of a stand, you can plumb it, right? And then you can drain the waste. So there's
Mm-hmm.
folks out there that do that. I also have one which is drilled, and I'll put it over a 5 gallon bucket. And if you've got, say, a larger plant or a mother plant, something that you want to do a flush with, you take it, if it's not under a scrog, you've got the availability, and you set it right on top of that. You pour
Mm-hmm.
everything through, and it just drains right through into that 5 gallon bucket on the floor. So, and then, a lot of folks like to use those Rockwell cubes
Mm-hmm.
and they work great on my little 10-inch, and so there's a few different applications. And if you happen to have and it would probably have to be an older plant, but if you've got a plant where there's roots coming out of the bottom, you could actually literally feed from the bottom, and they could pull
Mm-hmm.
that in. But that'd be a plant that's got a little bit of age to it. But
Sure.
that's and then but the second year I brought the 10-inch into play, and I've just started my 8th year, but it's crazy challenges, man. And you're in the business, so I'll tell you, there's I've never seen another retail industry like the hydro industry. I've never seen changes happen in an industry right in front of your face that are so seismic anywhere else. I mean, have you ever seen those National Geographic uh, uh, um, uh, shots of a boat in the Arctic where they're just watching the glaciers fall off into the ocean? That's kind of like some of the industry changes because one day there's a huge company there, and then there's not a huge company there, and then there's a company there that's this big, and then they're this big, and then there's a group that had nothing to do with things, and now they're here, and they're buying up every company, and there's forcing the hands of other distributors and other entities. It's just, when you go to the grocery store, you go to Best Buy or you go to Target, that kind of stuff doesn't exist. There's not like retail hostility, man. I've been in stores where, and also it just seems that when we're talking about the brick and mortar stores, they're in a constant discount war with each other because they're trying to pull in customers, right? So you walk
Yeah,
into a
it's a
place,
race to the bottom.
yeah, you walk into a place you've never been in there before, you're getting a 10% discount. You go in there, you spend $40,000, you're getting a 35% discount. And when I was doing all that touring around, and I still move about, I've been in stores where I have just heard the customers talk horribly to the people who work there. Like, if you ain't here on Tuesday for 50% off, man, I'm going over. It's like, you don't speak to people like that in Ralph's or
Yeah, you
in
wouldn't go to
Walmart.
McDonald's and
Yeah, you
haggle for a
under
hamburger.
it. Yeah. So, but it's just, I don't know. It's just, that's just the way and that's just one puzzle piece. So, um, and me having no background in any of this stuff, it's just like hitting the ground running constantly. You know what I mean? But the good
Yeah,
thing is,
but
is
you
that
but you learn quick. They all
yeah,
kind of run the same, and you pick it up quick if you know
yeah,
sales, which you do.
yeah. And the one thing that I'm fortunate is that my product is good. People love it. It does what it's supposed to do, and so there's a place for it in in the industry and in the gardening industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And anybody who out there who wants to start a business, I will tell you this: don't wait to get picked for kickball. Don't write a letter to ask permission. If you're passionate and you have the wherewithal and you want to start a business, you just kind of have to force your way into these places, man. Because um, yeah, and I imagine that's probably the way it went with Smart Pots way back in the beginning. Was that no one said it's your turn now. Why don't you come join us? We're gonna make space for you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So um, just from
absolutely.
from a business sense, man, I've just learned so much and just gotten very, it's like special forces fine tuning because I'm the warehouse guy, I'm the sales guy, I'm the collections guy, I'm the
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And if it doesn't,
you wear all the hats.
if I don't do it, it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So on the one hand, it kind of keeps a little bit of a glass ceiling over my growth, but also on the other hand, it provides me with a life that I actually kind of love. You know what I mean? I set my own schedule, even though work
Every
never
day is
ends.
different.
Every day is different. I get to work from home, but it's also the successes are mine and the failures are mine. So I don't know if you've ever worked at a company where you're somewhere on the totem pole and there's just not very good decisions being made above you, and you're like, man, I would do it this or could have done that way, and if it would have done this way, I would have got that commission or whatever the case may be. Well, now all that's out of the way. So the good decisions are all mine, the bad decisions are all mine, but at least I can, at the end of the day, I can know that I put my best foot forward. You know what I mean? Because
Totally.
it was all on my shoulders, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So a number of years ago, I gave you some Smart Pot samples, I
Yeah.
believe, when you hooked me
Yeah.
up with your Square Farmer samples. Did you get to use those? And,
Of course.
if so, what did you grow? And what are your thoughts on growing in Smart Pots overall?
You know, I loved them. I think they're fantastic. You gave me a few little ones and a 5 gallon one, and then some larger ones. The larger ones didn't get put into play until a little bit later on, and they're still in use.
Nice.
I sort of, I don't want to say tend to garden because my buddy tends the garden down in the Torrance area, but I kind of provide all the support and this and that, um, and they work excellent, and just throw them in the washing machine and they're good to go. I know. I think I see on your website you guys say they're good for up to about 5 years. I hope I'm not misquoting,
Five
but
five years is kind of the minimum. I've seen them in
yeah,
use for like 10 to 12 years.
because I was going to say it really truly depends upon what you're using them for. Because if you put a small tree in one of them, then it can just go till it just can't, till it comes apart. But um, the smaller ones work. So the larger ones had like some cannabis plants in them, and same with the smaller ones. I tried my hand with like some corn and some tomatoes and stuff like that. And man, I am just not the greatest home gardener. My corn just got attacked by ants at some point, and it was just unstoppable. And I just didn't have that green thumb, but I did give it my best shot. Where I live, it gets really really hot in the summertime, and it gets very very dry too sometimes. And so, but that's a if you are going to do any gardening or growing, a smart pot is the perfect solution for that, because you want your roots to breathe. You want them to have breathability, and then you really don't want them to get root bound where they're just going to spin around and around and around and around inside of a pot. So
Yeah, baking in the
um,
sun in Temecula.
absolutely. And it's interesting. If you go on Instagram, you'll see people that are showing they've taken their plant out of a pot and they're showing roots that are just so spun around, and they're proud of that. They're like, check out these
Right,
roots. It's
right,
like,
right.
yeah, help it. But the fact that once your roots hit the fabric and go through it, they kind of prune themselves there. Yeah. And if they're in darkness going down through the base of it, they can grow right. I actually, they'll grow right into the ground. The roots will go through and go into the ground. But I think that you guys have a fantastic product. I will say this to kind of, and let me hear your thoughts on it. Folks have said, I'm growing in fabric pots and I'm using your saucers, or I want to use your saucers, but when I put it on, when I put it on the platform, it's going to create an indention in the bottom of my fabric pot, and that's going to screw things up. But there will be a little bit of an indention, and there could be a little bit more of an indention or less depending upon how tightly packed your fabric pot is, your smart pot
Yeah,
is. But
I
really
would
it's not.
say, yeah, if you're just filling your smart pot very loosely with the soil, and then you take it, directly from that onto the square farmer. Yeah, I've seen it myself. If I do it like that, the pot will kind of conform to the riser a little bit and dip down.
Yeah,
Nothing to where, like, I thought it was a failure, of the system. But
yeah,
going forward, I made sure to kind of fill my smart pot a little bit more densely, kind of tap it down on the concrete floor to, make sure
yeah,
everything is nicely packed in there. And then I put it on that riser, and I didn't see, the dips. So that
yeah.
would be my
And
suggestion.
I agree. And it's just it's not super significant. And really just what's happening is that you're not losing any soil. You're not losing any grow medium. It's just getting pressed up a little bit. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just
it's just getting
conforming.
it's just getting reshaped. And then also, depending upon how large your fabric pot is and how long your plant is going to stay inside of that pot, in reality, maybe your roots don't even reach that deep. It all can depend upon what you're doing and where you're doing it with it and for how long. But
Sure.
I think that together, yeah, I even made an Instagram post of some smart pots and the square farmer. It's a great marriage, but it really is a fantastic way to just to try and oxygenate your roots a little bit more versus it just sitting in, just like you were saying, a plastic pot or a clay pot or something like that, where there's just less breathability, and then where it's just sitting flat
Yeah.
in a saucer. Yeah.
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 The aeration, I think, is, one of the biggest benefits to the plant that we provide. And then when you pair a smart pot with a square farmer, not only do you have, the top and the sides being aerated, but now you have most of the bottom getting
Yeah.
aeration as well. So it's a win-win
Yeah.
situation.
Ab-
Rick, you're doing the Square Farmer business. Do you have any other businesses that you run, or is it just Square Farmer
uh-uh.
full time
It,
for you?
it is just Square Farmer full time for me now. There's times when things get slow because I just can't. I I can't control when my product is going to sell, so it's almost like it just ebbs and flows, and sometimes,
Yeah,
but people need when they need, and that's all there is to it. So sometimes when things get a little bit slow, I might do like some kind of a side hustle, like a DoorDash or a Grubhub or something like that. But really, this is my only business, and I do though try to walk a fine line of doing everything that I can do, but also do not overdoing it, because if I get sick or if something unfortunate happens to me, then everything stops. So it's uh, there is kind of a fine line there between pushing yourself past a limit where your heart's going to explode, and spending a few extra hours a day. You know what I mean? There's but
yeah,
yeah. Now, if I had partners or something like that, yeah, maybe then I could just go full throttle and But
yeah. You
honestly,
you can't burn the candle at both ends, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
also, part of the benefit of being a small business owner is having that flexibility to, do other things other than
yeah,
the business. So
yeah. What's funny is I thought of another. I don't know. I don't even know if it would be a new product or if it would even be a new product at this point. But I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to do with plastic, but it has to do with gardening and growing. And I thought, don't you dare, don't you dare start another thing. So I'm just gonna
that
have
was
to.
going to be my
I'm
next
I'm
question,
gonna have
if
to
you
just
had
take that
any
one to the
other
grave.
plans.
No, no, but you know what? With Square Farmer, what I would love to do would be to have a larger saucer that could accommodate like a 7 and a 10 gallon pot, because the question I am constantly asked is, when are you going to get bigger, a larger size? Do you have a larger size yet? I'd love to do that. And then I would also, in a perfect world, love to have at least the two sizes that I have, to have a saucer that has a drainage option, you see, and that could open me up to an entirely different audience. And then also, I think maybe my third year in or so, I got a design patent on the riser portion of my unit. But I think it would be great if there were 2x2, 2x4, 4x8 tables. Instead of having those rivulets in them, they could just have several of my pods at various places. That way you could use a cube, you could use a pot, set it up there. It's never going to be sitting down in any kind of overflow scenario, and the overflow will easily make its way out of there. And
Hmm.
so, but it's just each one of those things costs money, and then you have to start to think, how much is it going to cost for me to ship that? But if there's ever a time where I join a larger group or something like that, who has that wherewithal, who's got sort of the built-in capabilities to, I don't know, ship things around the US, or at least have storage facilities around the United States where these larger products could be accessed. That's definitely a place that my company could go for sure. You know what I mean? I know that a larger saucer would kill, but it just comes down it comes down to a financial thing, because it's just these molds, they cost so much money. You got to push a lot of plastic before you get your money back. You know what I mean?
No, for
And
sure.
But yeah, so there's room for Square Farmer to grow. It's just, we'll see what happens.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Rick, if people are convinced to purchase now, where can they find you? Can they order online,
Of
or
course.
is
Yeah.
it only in store?
No, absolutely. A few different things, and I hooked something up too for you guys. So, the best place to go is my website, which is squarefarmer.com. And you can purchase on my website. And right now, shipping is $10.99. No matter where you are in the lower 48, you just have to buy at least 6 units. Okay, so
That's
if you
not
buy,
bad.
it's not bad. So if you buy 6 units or 60 units or 600 units, your shipping cost will be $10.99. And on top of
Nice,
that, I also have a coupon code that I entered in there. It's Smart Pot, all one word. It's not case sensitive, but I did it uppercase. And that's you enter in that code, you're going to get 10% off. And I'm going to run
nice,
that. I'm going to thank yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run that through April 1st of 2025. Okay. So
cool.
I'm going to leave that coupon code up there for over a year because you know how it is with podcasts. People don't necessarily listen to them right when they happen. You know what I mean?
No,
But
no, yeah,
it,
these are all pre-recorded, so everything
yeah.
is in the future.
And if you want to tell your friends and they tell their friends, or someone hears us and they tell their friends, I don't care. That's perfectly fine. You can use that SmartPot coupon code and also just save a grip on shipping. I'm also on Amazon, and I am also in probably about 100 or so different brick and mortar locations around the United States. And so you could find my product in there, or if you guys have a garden center or a hydro store that you go to that doesn't carry my product, but you want my product, have them call me. I'll do a one-off with anybody, and they
Hmm.
can make a few bucks, and you guys get your product, and I'm always willing to do that for sure. And then if someone wants to get a whole bunch, like several hundred or over 1,000, you could always just email me or give me a call, and we could maybe put something together. You know what I mean? So
Nice.
there's a there's a
Is there an email that you use for Square Farmer that people can reach out?
Yeah, it's simply squarefarmer@gmail.com. It's all lowercase. There's no spacing in that. And you can also feel free to hit me up. I'm at 951-704-8001. I try to be as available as possible because I don't know, Amazon is kind of a newer phenomena, but back in the day, you could order stuff out of the back of a magazine. You can order stuff off the television. You still can. And you never really know, is this real? Is this coming from a place? Am I really going to get this? So I try to make myself available. If people want to call me or they want to email me, then I can demystify all of that. And when you order from me on Amazon, I'm the one putting that together. I don't do fulfillment by Amazon. That wouldn't work for me. My product is way too big and heavy. I would just it just so. But I'm very reachable, and I love talking to people. And if I can, and folks also reach out to me with growing questions. And I'm not necessarily the greatest growing guy, but if I can help you and give you some advice, I'm willing. But yeah. So my product is available in a few different places for sure.
Nice,
Uh
nice.
huh.
Well, yeah, in summary, keep those roots out of standing water. Most plants do not appreciate that, and the Square Farmer is a great product. I've used it myself, highly
Thank you.
recommended. So,
Thank
on
you.
that
Same with
note,
smart pots.
yeah,
Same,
smart pots are
same.
pretty nice too. Yeah,
Yes.
they're a good pairing. Yeah, on that note, Rick, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Good to see you again, and
Yeah. Good to
looking
see you
forward
too,
to
Eric. Thank
talking
you.
with you in the future.
You got it, man. Thanks again. I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you for the opportunity.